it's Heather Adams with MassLive, and I am at Forest Park Zoo right now because it is now opened. It was closed for just a little bit because of the pandemic. It is now reopened to visitors. So we wanted to show you what you can kind of expect and what you can see right now. So I am here with Gabby and Eric. Can you tell me a little bit about what both of you do?
Yeah, so I am the development associate here at the zoo. So I work with events going on, fundraising at the zoo, and I also handle our social media.
Yeah, I'm the facilities manager, which basically means that I am responsible for maintaining the safety and security maintenance of the equipment here, as well as the enclosures for both the animal safety and guests. So I'll be making repairs on fencing, walkways, making sure all the animals are safe in the enclosures, no hazards or anything like that, landscaping, that kind of stuff. But I'm also, I help out with actual animal care, so I do zookeeping as well as some of our educational programs.
And we have a couple of friends here right behind us joining this interview. Can you introduce these guys?
So this is Mikey and Molly. They are plot-tube donkeys. A lot of people are familiar with donkeys in general, but the plot-tube is actually a breed that originated over in Europe, and they are considered critically endangered. There are very few of this particular breed of donkey left in the world. I think it's in the 200s.
About 500 last time.
500.
Yeah.
So actually, Mikey, who's a little bit larger, he's a little bit older, but he's also a purebred plot-tube, whereas Molly is a mix, so that's part of the reason why she's a little bit smaller and not quite as shaggy. But they are typically bigger, more broad-shouldered, and usually a bit further, shaggier looking donkeys than what many people are used to. But they're also waiting for their morning hay, so they're going to be getting that pretty soon.
They're eyeing it.
Yeah.
I know, we're stopping them a little bit.
Yeah, we go through a routine where all of our hoof stock, so all of our barn, corral, and donkeys all get cleaned up first thing in the morning and get morning hay, and then they get their evening hay and water as well. So that's like our routine. We do them first, and then we go through and do everything else in the zoo, and then circle back to these guys at the end.
And you can hear them, they're getting very excited. And you mentioned, that there's a very few amounts, and a lot of the animals here are high risk and other things. Can you talk a little bit about that before we jump in more?
Sure. So we do have a number of animals, residents here that are older, or they came from rehab facilities, either because of an injury that was sustained, and either the injury never healed completely, or throughout the healing process they became imprinted on humans, and a simplified way is saying they became too friendly, and so rehab facilities for different reasons will determine an animal to be non-releasable, so they come here as one of the options. We have made a lot of connections recently with different rehab facilities, but that in addition to some just being older because they've been here for a while, so we try and make sure that we do as much as possible to make them as comfortable as possible. We do a lot of enrichment, whether that's a mental stimulating enrichment or a physically behavioral stimulating enrichment to make sure that these guys live their best lives possible.
That's awesome. And so during the pandemic, you guys did have to close down for a certain amount of time. Before we get to more about the reopening, I mean, even though you guys were closed down, you couldn't just stop caring for the animals.
Oh, no, yeah.
So can you talk about what you had to do for that?
So for us, because initially we didn't know how much of a risk there was going to be for non-human animals, there was an expected amount of risk with primates because there's a lot of already previously known pathogens that can go back and forth between humans and primates, like monkeys, lemurs, and the great apes. Here we don't have a whole lot. We have lemurs and a couple of species of monkeys. So the precautions that we were taking for them, as well as large cats and canines, so they're carnivores, is we all carry around sanitizer with us. We make sure that we clean ourselves in between each animal enclosure. We also have a bleach foot bath so that we can sanitize our feet before we go into our meal prep area. We'll spray down our feet as well as our hands before we go into different enclosures, and a lot of things like that, in addition to the obvious wearing of the masks, just to make sure that our higher risk animals, again, are canines, felines, other carnivores, and then our primates. So you'll also notice that they have a little bit more precaution around them at the zoo than guests as well.
Awesome. And I know a couple of people here are commenting that they're having a hard time hearing. We're doing our best being loud. The masks do cause a little bit of issue with that. Also double check to make sure, because sometimes the live automatically comes up muted, so do double check that you are not muted and to turn on your sound. So to go on, so now that you guys are open, what can you expect for people who want to come visit?
Yeah, Eric touched on it a bit with the masks. So one of the biggest things that we, are pushing and requiring is mask wearing, and that is both to protect our staff, guests, but as well as the animals, as he mentioned. The other big shift we had to do is we moved to a time ticketing platform. So you used to be able to just show up at the gate and buy tickets and come in. However, now you are required to buy tickets online. You can do so at forestparkzoo.org/buy tickets. And we are selling 10 tickets every 10 minutes. And that's to let everybody in and maintain, appropriate social distancing between parties. And then we did mark out a one-way path around the zoo that's very easy to follow. We also had to close off our indoor exhibits, but that's only the barn and the discovery room, and all of the animals in the barn you can also see from outside. So it's nice that the majority of our animals are outside. So we didn't have to close off too much. And then we just, of course, ask that everybody remains spaced out from other parties while in the zoo. And then at this time, we are not allowing touching or feeding of animals, and that's, again, to protect our animals as well as our guests. So those are the main differences, but it's been going well since opening. Everybody has been, respectful of the rules, so it's been really good.
Awesome. And I love that your mask is on theme.
Thank you. Yes, actually one of our board members made it all for us. So.
That's fantastic. So on top of the pandemic and everything else and trying to reopen, it's also been extremely hot this week. So what can people expect as far as coming out and seeing the animals when it's this hot out?
So we have a couple of different things that we do. For one, we do have sprinklers that we will put on. We'll put pools of water. People have donated kiddie pools in the past, and we like to hold on to those because we never know when we're going to use them. Also, some of the animals are a little bit rough with them, like the wolves will eventually chew them up, and so we have to take them out before there are any issues. But we'll fill up kiddie pools for animals so that they can fully soak themselves. They all have water sources, but usually those are smaller dishes. So we give them the pool so they can actually get in there and soak themselves, or we'll set up a sprinkler going for some of the animals. And then for some of our smaller guys, we actually will freeze water bottles. Some of our rodents, such as our porcupine, our groundhogs, even our skunks, and some of those smaller mammals will actually go up to the ice bottle and kind of like lay next to it. In the wild, they're mimicking when they would dig into the dirt and find colder soil or a rock in the shade, and they'll press their body against it because it's cooler. So we're just kind of mimicking that same behavior, so that a lot of them will take to that. You'll also notice if you do see our rabbits, they do dig a little bit, and they do that natural instinct. In addition to the ice bottle, they'll dig down, find where the dirt is a little bit cooler because the sun hasn't been on it, and they lay there. Our chickens do the same thing. You'll see they dig little ditches around, and then they'll lay out and stretch themselves in the sun a little bit. People get concerned because they think that our chickens are injured, but this is a completely normal thing that they do, the way they lay on their side. But yeah. So.
And is there a certain time of day, especially when it's expected to get really hot, that might be better to come than the other? Does it matter?
Yeah, so generally for most zoos, depending on which animals that you're trying to see, early morning and evening. So I mean, we open at 10, so I would say from 10 to noon, a lot of animals are very active, and then although we close at 4, I would say from about 2:30 or that last hour that we're open, they're pretty active. On cooler days, obviously throughout the day, you'll see a lot of them as well, but on the really hot days, some of our mammals might be hiding in a shade or area that you might not be able to see them. A lot of our reptiles will still be out basking, so they'll be enjoying the sun. But yeah.
And we have more questions about paying at the gate or how to get tickets. So just for people who just joined, can you go over just that part again?
Yes, so we are requiring pre-purchase time tickets. So you can buy tickets at forestparkzoo.org/buy tickets. There's a link on there that'll take you to our virtual box office. And then you will be asked to pick your day as well as your time from a drop-down menu. The times are every 10 minutes from 10 to 3. We sell the last ticket at 3. That's just to give that last group enough time to see the zoo. But yeah, and then once you show up, you can either show the tickets on your phone or you can print them out and show them that way. But that's just, we have to contact trace everybody that comes in, and it also allows for everybody to remain social distance if they know when they're going to be here, and you know how many people are going to arrive there.
Awesome. So I think that here in just a minute, we're going to be able to meet some animals.
Yes.
So if we're ready for that, do we want to go ahead and meet them now?
Yeah, we can do that.
Awesome.
So one of the first ones I brought down are actually new members. So some people who have gone to any of our education programs or had us come to you, you may have noticed that we sometimes will bring out hedgehogs as like a small exotic animal. And one of our hedgehogs recently had babies. So first I'll just kind of like get a peek. So I was only going to bring one, but they happen to all be in this bag already. So I just kind of grabbed them.
Oh.
So you may notice that their mother is albino. So this is Minnie. And Minnie, over the time that we were closed, did give birth to 3 young hedgehogs. So this is one of them.
Oh.
Now it might be a fun fact, baby hedgehogs are actually called hoglets. So this is one of our hoglets. It was, I believe, 1 boy and 2 girls. Sorry, my hands are a little dirty.
And do you know exactly how old they are now?
So, excuse me at the moment, when these guys are first born, it's very important to leave them alone for 15 days. So we give them just over 2 weeks so that the mother doesn't get too stressed out and there aren't any issues. So it was more, we were just looking at them. They were little pink pin cushions. They did already have some of their spikes. They're just not quite as prickly as they are now. But it's been about a month now, I'd say.
They are too cute.
We're going on about 3-4 weeks now. So, and as I mentioned about beating the heat, because these guys were coming outside, I gave them plenty of towels, but I did also give them an ice bottle just to make sure that while they're out here in the carrier, they don't get too warm. But between the ice bottle and being in the shade, they should be fine, and they were curled up with each other. Anyways, you can kind of see more of them in there.
And if people want to see them, come see them in person, how can they do that? Are they able to do that yet?
So right now, these guys, especially because they were just born, they are in our back area, still under observation, just to make sure, 100% sure. Most of our hedgehogs are usually in the discovery room. So again, right now, that area is closed off. So here's your really good chance to get to see them, since you might not be able to see them when you're visiting. Once we're able to start doing education programs again, though, they most likely would be one of our shining stars, as they often are.
And they are not the only babies that have been recently born. Can you talk about that before we moved on to our next animal?
Yes. So a few months ago, we had twin baby goats that were born. So 2 kids, and they currently do not have names. So we couldn't land on a name, so we wanted to get the community involved to help us name the 2 baby goats. So we are currently holding a raffle where 2 lucky winners will get the chance to each name one of the goats. And a raffle ticket is $5. You can buy as many as you'd like. However, we are only selling 250 tickets. But if you go onto our website, again, forestparkzoo.org, under the Support Us tab, you'll find the Name That Kid raffle. You can purchase a ticket, enter to win. We are ending either when all 250 tickets are sold or August 27th, the raffle will end. And then on August 28th, we will pick the 2 lucky winners in a Facebook Live segment on our Facebook. And then we will be announcing those names on the 2nd. So that's very exciting.
And like she said, you can go on their website to purchase those tickets, or if you need MassLive, I wrote a story about this yesterday and we linked directly to that, so check out MassLive on our site and then you can easily find the raffle there. All right, so, oh my goodness.
And this is Angus. Angus is one of our sulcata tortoises, also known as the African spurred tortoise. Oh, he got startled there.
I'm sorry.
So he's enjoying some of our grass. Our field out here in the center of the zoo is fertilizer and pesticide free. So he's enjoying all this crabgrass that's growing. We routinely will bring him and some of our other reptiles out to the field for basking in the sun. The enclosure where he's in doesn't have quite as much grass because it's been eaten, so we like to routinely bring them out here so they can enjoy some grass, in addition to their big salads that they get fed every other day. But he's actually a teenager. He's about 17 years old now. We do have Goliath, many of our guests may have seen before, who is about twice the size of Angus here. So they do get very large. They can get up to 100 pounds. They also live for about 100 years. But yeah, he's enjoying his grass quite a bit.
He is. Oh, hello.
Another thing I like to touch on, that Angus, as well as Sully, our other sulcata tortoise, and Goliath, were all previously owned by people as pets. So here at the zoo, we like to kind of touch on responsible pet ownership. A lot of times people will get pets because they think they're cool, and they are, I'm not gonna lie. But a lot of times not everyone does all their research. They don't realize how big they get, how much care, how much they cost. We do sometimes take in animals that people can't own anymore, but it really is dependent on how much space we currently have and what our resources are, so we cannot take the very large requests for people to take in their pets. But these are some of them, and in fact a number of our hedgehogs, like obviously the ones that were just born here, have been here since birth, but their parents both came to us also as pet relinquished animals. And again, we can't do this. We probably take in a very small fraction of all the times that people reach out to us. But so that's why we want to make sure that anytime anyone wants to get any sort of exotic pet, which when I say that I mean anything other than a dog or a cat, that people do all the research and truly know what they're getting themselves into.
And if someone is maybe thinking about this and not sure where to turn, are there good resources? Can they call you guys if they're thinking about these kind of pets?
I mean, a lot of our staff are very knowledgeable and they can certainly give advice. You can also reach out to local animal shelters. You'll be surprised, there's a lot of animal-specific rescues out there that focus specifically on either large birds like parrots or reptiles like Angus here, where you can get resources. Really, Google searches can get you a lot of very valuable information. There's a lot of stuff out there about all these animals and what they really need.
And where can you normally find him when he's not enjoying a snack out here in the field?
So him and Sully actually hang out in the yard when you first come in here, across from the spider monkeys, and they hang out with Patty, our pot-bellied pig, and two very large rabbits. So it's kind of our fun collection yard with 2 tortoises, 2 rabbits, and a pig. And it's a pretty decent sized yard. They all get along pretty well. But we have to feed them separately because they will steal each other's food.
Well, if anyone has any other questions, be sure to comment them below and we'll get those answered. All right, well, if anybody has any other questions, again, comment those below. We can get those answered after we're done with the Facebook Live. I'm Heather Adams from MassLive. You can find more about Forest Park Zoo on MassLive.com. Thanks.